All right. Coming at you live from all corners of the earth. We got three of us on here tonight. Guys, I'm excited to be with you. My name is Cody Hoffine. We've got the Flip Master King, Mr. Jerry Norton.
Excited to be here. Fun topic tonight.
What'd you say, Jerry?
This is a fun topic tonight.
This is going to be gravy train, gentlemen and ladies. This is going to be good stuff. I think tonight's topic, just so you guys know, Matt and Sean, tonight's title is How to Wholesale, not Wholesale, More Deals in 2021. So
got it.
For those that are new to this, we're going to be breaking this down. But tonight we have Matt Barron and Sean Hellman. They're from Albuquerque, New Mexico. They've been wholesaling now for 15 months. And they're going to go over a deal, guys, that they call wholetailing. And we're going to break that down. So before we get going, Jerry, break us down a little bit, because this is one of those favorite topics of yours where you're always trying to take down deals. Give our audience a scoop of like a very easy definition. What in the heck is wholetailing?
Yeah, so if you've been an active wholesaler, you for sure are familiar with what this is, because you probably have run into this situation. But let's think about really what wholesaling is first, and make sure we have a grasp on that, and then we can define what wholetailing is and how that's different. So wholesaling in the traditional sense is when you assign your contract, right? Now, we could also do a double closing, and a double closing would be we still line up our cash buyer ahead of time, but now we do like a back-to-back closing. So cash buyers figured out ahead of time. We either do a straight assignment, which is nice because no funding the deal, no paying closing fees. You walk out of there with a check. It's beautiful, a beautiful thing when that happens. Double closing might be strategic, or it might be because your contract won't allow it, but you would do a back-to-back closing. Still, you've got your cash buyer ahead of time. You know who they are. They're contracted, and you just go and do two closings. Now, that kind of stinks in the sense because you got to fund the first closing, right? And then you got to pay fees usually, and then do a second closing, maybe pay fees again. It just kind of depends, and maybe you got to get transactional funding, which is the funding for, a minute, right? An hour, a day, or whatever. Wholesale is a completely different idea, but we still put it in the wholesaling, umbrella, because in essence, when we don't rehab, we kind of are still wholesaling, is kind of my opinion. As soon as you touch it, you now enter into the world of rehabbing, whether it's clean it out, trash it out, send a cleaning person, carpet paint, all the way up to, total remodel. Soon as we touch it, we start doing rehabbing. So the idea behind wholetailing is, like, the way I like to refer to it is when we actually take down a deal, but we don't have our buyer yet. We're going to take it down, meaning we're going to buy it. And then what we're doing is we're going to then look for a buyer. So we're going to put it back up for sale, either on the MLS, or we could do it Zillow by owner or whatever. But we're going to take title and buy it. Then we're just going to turn around and try to resell it without touching it. Again, if we touch it, we rehab, we're going to not touch that property. We're going to then just put it back up for sale and look for a buyer to come forward and want to buy that property. And so it's still like, there's still a longer window of time now in the deal, because you might close on it, mess around for a few weeks, get a buyer, contract, close 30 days later. So sometimes your window's a little bit longer. But the reason why we really want to start looking at wholetailing is because it just opens up the opportunity on a lot of deals to attract a buyer we maybe don't know, a buyer that's in the market, they're not on a list, and they probably can pay more. They might pay way more than anybody on a list we might have. They might be retail, or it could be another investor. But the idea here is when we wholesale, we tend to fetch a much bigger price than if we do an assignment. At least that's the experience I'm having right now in my deals, is if I can take it down, put it back up for sale, I can usually find a bigger buyer or sell it for higher than if I just did a straight assignment to like a local cash buyer on a list. Does that make sense? Is that kind of a good breakdown, Cody?
Love it. Love it. I love it, guys. Wholesale, I just look at it as a simple way of just saying wholesale, retail, cut them in half, and you get wholesale. You're going to go find a deeply discounted property and find a retail buyer to go sell it to.
Simple as that. Yeah.
Simple. So Matt, Sean, tell us what got you in the game. Give us a little background about you boys, and let's help the audience understand a little bit about you guys.
Good, John.
So really, we actually happen to be licensed real estate agents as well. And we watched a lot of people, we helped a lot of investors make money. And essentially over time, we're like, well, let's look at an opportunity where we can really learn how to find the deals. Like that was really kind of the initial struggle, was we just weren't really finding opportunities. But as we started kind of really listening to podcasts like yours, we've really figured out it's more of a marketing system more than anything to go attract and find opportunities. And we can make money on the front end by connecting our investor network of people for potential flips or buy and holds. And it allows us to get to the source of the property. So that's really what led us down the way. Just through my networking, we kind of ended up buying a We Buy Houses license. So we kind of owned the domain rights to that in our local market. So it's really kind of our marketing front, our brand that we're selling on the wholesale side of things. But it really works really well with our retail side of the business if we have that as an option. But it gives us really our hands, first access to potential investment opportunities, for our investor network, but even for ourselves as investors.
I love it. So you've been doing this 15 months wholesaling, so not a long time. I know we're going to be breaking down specifically one of these deals of the wholesale deal, but in general, over the 15 months, what have you guys been able to do wholesaling and wholetailing? How many deals? What does that look like in gross rev? And then we'll get right into live Q&A simultaneous while you guys are breaking down this one wholesale deal.
And I think we've done about 16 deals since we began in October of 2018, was it?
2019.
2019, right?
2019?
Yeah.
2019, 16 deals. And do you majority of your deals done through the wholesale channel, like this, just the typical wholesale, or wholesale?
So two of those deals, well, one was more of your traditional flip because it involved a little bit more than just your basic wholesale.
Yep.
So we did, it was actually our first deal. It turned into a flip. We did 14 wholesales, and then we did one wholesale. So it's a total of 16 deals. Total revenue for the year of 2020 for us was about $160,000. That includes the wholesale.
Yep.
But for first year, those were the results that we saw.
Fantastic. In fact, that's worth a bell right there.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about this for a second. Question on the sideline, and we're gonna break this down for you. That's kind of scary. I'd still have to find funds for that. We'll break this all down so you start to hear this. So guys, while we're here, I want you to understand this is a live Q&A. We want you, and we welcome all of your questions, because as Sean and as Matt break down this deal, we want to be able to make sure that you guys really understand. We're going to break this case study down as granular as possible. The whole goal here is so that you guys get out there and start to act on what you learned tonight. That's our whole goal and purpose behind this. So as you have questions, do not hesitate to chime in. We'll get to as many as possible. And again, being that we're talking about wholesaling, keep your questions as narrow and condensed to this topic tonight. We'll have other things down in the future that might talk about other things that we can bring up, like cash buyers or typical wholesale deals. But tonight's questions, really the ones we're going to really be focusing on because of the topic and the title tonight, are wholesale questions. So try to keep it narrow, try to keep it focused so that we can give you guys as much information to get out there and start taking action on it. But Jerry, before we get going, anything you want to say and add to that?
Yes. So guys, you got to be thinking outside the box right now in your wholesaling business. If you're a one-trick pony, meaning all you can do is an assignment and you're not willing to figure out any other way to take down deals or do deals, it's going to limit your ability to make income in this business. You have to start thinking, even if you're new, we want you to start thinking outside the box a little bit and be able to look at deals. And really, what I do with every deal I look at is I say, what is the greatest return for my investment of time, energy, and effort that's going to yield the greatest profit on this particular deal. And it's not always an assignment. If we're talking about wholesaling, sometimes there's deals that are going to make more sense to stay in the deal a little bit longer, and you're going to make a whole lot more money. So be open to that. I guess that's kind of what we're talking here. This is wholesaling, in my mind, is creative financing for wholesalers.
Right.
It's really being able to say, you know what, I'm going to participate a little bit further in this deal than just a straight assignment. But on the flip side, I might double my profit on this deal, right? And that's very likely. That's what I'm looking at with my wholesale deals is making twice as much as I probably would if I just looked at it from the assignment, a straight assignment point of view. So that's kind of exciting, guys. And so, you could easily, double your fees, double your wholesale profit just by learning how and starting to do some wholesale deals instead of wholesale deals.
Love it. Love it. Well, let's get into this, guys. I think this is going to be a hot topic. I think there's going to be a lot of people who are going to learn a lot of things, but how you can make that extra $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20,000 per deal by just simply doing a wholesale instead of a wholesale. So Matt and Sean, let's take it right from the beginning and break this down. Jerry, please chime in where you are wanting some deeper questions as well. But what we want is, let's break this down from the beginning. What list are you marketing to get this deal? And what marketing channel did you use to get your message out to them?
This was a pay-per-click, and so we get a lot of pay-per-click leads. And I believe this one was actually a call-in from the main We Buy Houses Central. And the lady was from Hawaii, and she moved out of Albuquerque, and she owned a condo, and she was not planning to come back. She had no want to come back to the States, this part of the States, the domestic States. And so she just wanted to sell her property. And she had to mail us the keys in order to look at it because she still had it. And
that's a lot of trust already out of the
yes.
gate. Holy smokes.
Well, we gained good rapport on the phone. We had a couple of conversations before she sent it out to me, but I gave her all our options, and she said, I just want to get rid of it very quickly. So she sent us the keys, and we finally looked at the condo, and we've had the luxury of selling a couple of them in that same complex. And there was absolutely nothing wrong with this place. It had new floors, freshly painted, relatively new appliances. I think the furnace was brand new also. So it was.
Well, this sounds like a golden ticket. This sounds like
it was very nice.
Open the chocolate bar, and he's like, golden ticket. We're going to see Willy Wonka. So not all leads sound like this, but I'm sure there's got to be some more digging, because this is the best part to keep every one of you excited. Every now and again, you're going to come across a lead that sounds just like this, like, hey, I just want to get rid of it. And they're just open book. And I will tell you, most of our web leads, if I had to categorize where we find majority of our leads that are like completely like, blah, like let everything out and tell you everything that's going on, people are willing to write things. Think about Facebook. How many people do you hear call you out or say something rude on Facebook, but they would never say that face to face if you were going dinner with them, right? It's the same thing with these web forms. We have found out that our deals, our hottest deals, are coming from digital marketing, from web marketing, for this reason right here. You'll read one of their web forms and they're like, I'm going through divorce. I hate my house. I hate this state. I want to get rid of it. I'll mail you the keys. Like, let's get it done. Let's go now. Like, it is so obvious that I've got to get a hold of this person. So if you're looking for leads like that, I have found out that if I could categorize where majority of those leads are coming from, they're coming from digital marketing. So here's a hot lead. They say they want to get out. Is there any more digging than why they want to get out?
I did. I asked quite a bit. I said, hey, what's the situation? And she said that she was dating somebody and she was not comfortable being in the same vicinity as that person. And that was pretty much the extent of it. I think she just was not really wanting to come back for that reason. So I just had to listen to her story and find out more about what her motivation was.
When we bought the condo, we also acquired all the furniture with it too.
Yes.
Like, I mean, she literally
Left
packed
everything.
a suitcase, left town, had no intention of coming back. So we actually sold furniture too out of this place.
Which, by the way, is my favorite thing to involve my 12-year-old that wants to start a business. I let him come through every one of our homes first and say, hey, bro, what are we going to list on Craigslist? Which here in Utah, it's KSL. But for you guys, it's Craigslist. and he loves it. He makes a few $100 and he saves it up, and then he puts that money to work at Dad's wholesale company for lending out. And so, okay, so you're selling furniture as well.
Yeah,
furniture, and really all we had was, I think we had to replace a dishwasher, and we had a minor electrical issue. We spent no more than $1,000 total to get the home ready for the market. So we made it back with selling the furniture, and we staged it with what
that was
we
part
wanted
of the
to
cost.
keep,
Yeah.
and then we just went on the market.
What were those small things you had to do? I think me and Jerry both like, no. What did the $1,000 go to get it fixed up? What were the minimum things?
She said that there was an electrical issue, and then I found out that the
breaker was off.
What was that?
The breaker was off.
Well, actually, now that you said that, the breaker was off because someone was trying to change out the smoke alarm, and she didn't know how to turn the breaker back on. And so we switched out the smoke alarm, turned the breaker back on, and all the electrical worked in the bathrooms and the bathroom and the bedroom. And I think that was the problem. It was just the breaker was shut off. So, and then we spent the money to stage the property to make it look good for the MLS so we can maximize the amount.
Okay. Now, here's a good question to put in here. Jerry, chime in, and then gentlemen, we'd like to see what your question or what your answer, how you funded this. I know this is already right on topic. So would you recommend using hard money or transactional funds to wholesale? I have not found transactional lenders that will lend 30, 60, or 90 days. Jerry, why don't you hit that off first?
Yeah, so transactional is probably not going to work because, again, that's typically for same day, next day closings. But here's what I found. There are hard money lenders that specialize in this exact strategy that will fund your deals. And so, for example, here in Phoenix, I have a lender that he lends 100% of the purchase price, including closing fees. Now, it's not cheap, but again, you're only in this deal for 30, 60 days at most, right? Because
90 if it's FHA,
90 if it's
a buyer.
Right. But the idea here is you buy, you close, you put it back up for sale. Maybe like Matt and Sean did, you clean it out or trash it out or do something, right? But the idea here is you get it right back up for sale, as fast as possible. And then, within a week or so or whatever, you get your buyer, you close 30 days later kind of thing. So you're only in these deals for 30, 45, maybe 60 deals. So you are going to probably, if you don't have funding, a private lender or your own cash or access to cash, hard money will do these deals. You just got to get the right type of hard money. So for example, here in Phoenix, they're 18%. Now I know that sounds crazy expensive. That's expensive, but they, like I said, 100% of purchase, including closing fees and no prepayment. So if you pay it, if you close out the deal in 30 days after that, you just pay the interest on whatever your purchase was for 30 days. And so that's just a cost of doing business. You build that in, right? Same with commissions and closing fees. You got to think about, well, if I take it down and buy it and then resell it, what are all my fees to do that? Is my spread big enough to still make more profit than if I did an assignment? And that's kind of what I do. I look at it that way as like my full analysis on the numbers.
Love it. Sean and Matt, what did you do to take down this property? Was this own funds? Was this hard cash? What did that look like?
That's a great question. And it's funny that the person asked that question about, I don't have the funds. We did have the funds, but we didn't want to tie it up in the property. So we went to a family member. We said, hey, would you mind giving us the money? And after we close, we'll give you 12% on it. Perfect. And they took it. They were just like, yeah, that's great for 45 to 60 day turnaround. Making that much money would be great. And so we use other people's money.
Matt, Sean, what was total time from closing on the buy to closing on the sale? What was that window?
60 days.
Perfect.
Like right under 60-day mark. It took us.
How much money was it required from that family member?
How much money was required from the family member?
Like the purchase price and closing.
35,000.
Yeah, 30.
Oh, so not even much money. So they were willing to do this for essentially $700 for the 2 months that they gave it to you.
Yeah, we gave them 12%, so we gave them about 3,000. So
okay, I'm trying to do my math. Am I doing my math right, Jerry? I know in my mind I'm thinking it's just 1%. Or did you do?
Well, you did
like how we do 12%. It'd be 1% per month on 35 grand. So it'd be 700.
Yeah, we just did a fixed amount, and so. Okay. Yeah. And I said, hey, give us this amount. We'll give you this amount when we close. And he was fine with it because he wanted to help out. We just didn't want to tie up our money in the whole thing.
So that's the thing. You actually pay, so 12% annually would have been, like Cody said, hardly anything. But when you actually paid you actually paid 3 points for the money, right? Which, if you think about it, annualized or whatever, that's pretty dang expensive. But it wasn't. It got your deal done. It cost you $3,000 to get the money. Big deal, because you made such a big profit doing the wholesale that it's just the cost of doing business.
Bucket, yeah.
People let money be the limitation. Like, oh, I don't have the money. Are you kidding me? Someone will lend you $35,000 to make $3,000 in 60 days. That's a crazy return on investment for somebody.
Here's the better part, Jerry, is even people with money. I don't use my own money unless I have to. I'm my last resort. Like, I don't want to tie up my money. I know that sounds crazy. It's like, why would you put $3,000 on the table? For me, it'd be more like the 700 on the table on something like this. But why would I want, like, in my mind, I'm thinking, like there's other things. If I need to cherry pick one of my deals for a rental, I need that money readily available versus worrying about making a extra $700, right? Like, so it's not, even people with money aren't using their own money if they don't have to.
Right. And I guarantee you that family member, there's no way they could do anything else in the world that would make them $3,000 in 60 days on their $35,000. Like, where else would they make that kind of money? Not passive like they did with you. And they're protected by the real estate, right? You're buying below market. It's a great deal. You just have to be able to talk to the right people. And there are people that will lend you that money to do your deals. And then all of a sudden now you're in the wholesale game, where before you didn't think you could, now you are. It's like, it's just that simple. We'll love that.
Yeah, that's kind of how we weighted too. I mean, giving them the 3 points, now that you put it that way, it far, like the return that we knew that we were going to get far outweighed that expense for us.
So the question I have for you gentlemen is this. We briefly touched on this. So I want to tell you one of the cons to a wholesale deal for everyone listening right now. And that is the fact that you could come across an FHA retail home buyer. Mm-hmm. For that reason, you have to season. I don't mean to rhyme, but I'm going to. For that reason, you're going to have a seasoning period where you have to own the home for 90 days before you can sell it to an FHA home buyer. Did you run across any of those issues with this particular deal where you had offers come in and it's like, well, we're going to go with this offer because it's not FHA and we can close quicker?
Yeah, I mean, we've run into that issue in the past, especially with like our flipper clientele that we've represented. So you just have to be aware of it and know what your acquisition date is, and just to get specific, you can't even execute a contract until day 91. So
it's not even 90 days. It's 90 days from contract. So then you got another 45 days to close with FHA. So it's really, it sucks. So I'll tell you what we do, Cody. So typically we'll put our property up and we'll be way before day 90. What we'll do is we'll sign a contract, we'll get through inspection, and then we'll wait until day 91, sign a new contract now, waive inspection because we already got that done. And now we're on now we can submit for the appraisal and we can submit for the financing. It still sucks because we're waiting, but and then I'll tell you another thing that I do, Matt and Sean, is when I know I'm going to do a wholesale and I think there's a really high likelihood my buyer is going to be FHA, and believe me, guys, if you're at the first-time buyer price point, it's probably going to be FHA because the financing requirements are so easy, 3% down and seller concessions and lower credit score, that more than likely your buyer is going to be FHA. So this really kind of puts a damper on the wholesale model. What I do is I offer to lease back the property to the seller as a benefit, and then they actually will pay me rent because I got to wait anyway. So then I'll earn money, and I'll just give them 30 days, maybe 60 days, and then they're out. I'll go in, we'll clean it up, put it back up for sale, and we're fine now because we've seasoned it a bit.
Bro, I want to get a buzzer for future ones that's like that lets people know gold nugget drop. That, guys, is brilliant. If you're going to have to wait 90 days, lease back to the seller for some kind of an amount so that at least it's not sitting, not making any money. And you may find out that rent pays exactly for what you're charged in hard cash.
Yeah, rent covers your payment. That's what I try to do. Rent covered my hard money payment, and I got someone occupying the property, so it's not sitting vacant, right? for 30, 60 days, boom, then we get them out, we clean it up or whatever we do, list it, sell it, done.
Yep.
That's a great idea.
Here's an awesome question, guys. And I think this fits in. Is it possible to do a deal with absolutely $0 to my name? Now, guys, I want you to really think about this before you answer, Matt and Sean, because there are some costs, regardless if it's your time or not. So what are your fixed costs on this particular deal?
It was honestly, we didn't have, so the nice thing using a family member's money is we didn't have monthly expense for holding costs.
Yep.
We just had those points that we had to pay at the closing table. We spent $500 for a dishwasher. We paid our stager. I think we paid for photos. I mean, we spent about $1,000 to get it live on the market. That was really our only out-of-pocket money that we spent.
Do you guys know your cost per conversion to break it down? Because this is going to vary for everyone, but I want people to understand there's marketing and there's things that go into this. So when we say, can I do this deal with absolutely $0? When it comes to the actual transaction, no, they were $0. It was all done by family. But if we're going to go granular on this, what's a typical cost per conversion? For me, on web, for example, I'm about $3,800 to $4,100 cost per contract. What are you guys at for web?
It's good. We really don't know that number. I mean, I know that what we're spending monthly on marketing. And so if you take 12 months, I mean, we probably spent, about $18,000 in marketing expense. We closed 16, deals for 160,000. So, I mean, I guess you break it down,
So the beautiful thing, guys, is who wouldn't sit in front of that slot machine all day, put it in and do cha-ching, and it spits out $160,000. That sounds like house lost on that one. And that you, my friends, the wholesalers, are doing well.
Yeah, I mean, it was, so it was definitely, a really good start, but we're smart enough now to know that we got to continue to change and evolve. I mean, we've been in, retail real estate for a while, and we know that the market changes, and some marketing tactics will yield you certain results, but those costs can always be changing. We started wholesaling and we were getting a lot of leads at the beginning, but then when COVID happened, it looked like the cost per lead started going up. And so it is important to kind of pay attention to those things. And we want to double down. We want to close more than just 16 deals this year. So we're looking at adding an additional marketing pillar so we get in front of more people.
So I'll throw out one idea here, Cody, that I do that's kind of unconventional, but you can actually do this with on-market properties. So I'll walk this through real quickly, but if you're really worried about no marketing budget, like in the beginning, then think about it this way. You can find distressed properties on MLS. It's got to be the perfect type of situation. And I'll give an example of one I recently did. But if you can take it down from the MLS, do something that's going to make it change as far as appearance, put it back up, then you can make that big wholesale spread. So I'll give you an example. In Metro Detroit, we recently did a deal where it came out for sale for $65,000. This is a little ranch, shotgun ranch. Came out for $65,000, and it showed horrible because the sellers were hoarders, right? And they were messy. And so the pictures was bad lighting, there crap everywhere. It just looked really, really bad. They weren't willing to clean it up. They weren't willing to do anything. It showed bad, it looked bad. Well, I saw through all of that and I saw, dude, this house is fine. There's nothing really wrong with this house. So I bought it for 65, closed. Once they moved out, we did a trash out because they left. I mean, the basement was like floor to ceiling, right? So we did a basic trash out. They took a lot of their stuff, but we had a dumpster and some cleanup, but that's it. We dumpster, clean out, go in there with nice pictures with good lighting, back on the MLS for like 94.9, sold it for 90. Bought it for 65, sold it for 90. Bought it on the MLS, sold it on the MLS. It just had to have the right kind of thing going on for that to work. And what did I do different? Nothing. I just cleaned it, showed it better, and resold it to a buyer where the market didn't see it before. Now they saw it.
Love it. Here's a good question, guys. So your exit price is the as-is comp value, and that's without adding anything. So here's a good point, guys. So we always hear this ARV term, right? Like after repair value. So you guys get this property. You say it was in great shape. So was this on retail for basically the all after repaired value, the ARV price, or were you just below that? Where'd that sit within your exit strategy with this wholesale deal?
Do you mean where we listed the property?
Yeah. Did you list it at full retail, or because it wasn't 100% up to snuff, it was a little bit less?
It was pretty good, but our strategy was actually to list it slightly below the top of the ARV.
Okay.
We wanted to make sure it was priced to sell. I think the comps were like 95, maybe even higher for the one bedrooms that we got, but we're like, we want to turn this around pretty quickly. So we just undershot at 89,000, and we knew we'd get tons of showings in an offer ASAP.
Now, here's the question, guys, because here's, I think, what the beautiful thing is. 'Tis the season, right? We're hearing this all the time. 'Tis the season. You're seeing this bull market that's still doing this. And yes, you may feel a little bit of pinch in some states, but not many states, guys. We are still lacking inventory. So here you are, you put this property out there at $89,000. My gut tells me because you were low, did you even sacrifice? Like, did you have multiple offers? Did you have offers that came in over asking price and ultimately get the full ARV anyways? What did that look like?
I think we got the full price offer.
Yeah, we had the full price, and
it was cash.
So. But yeah, that's what made it nice, because we knew that we could do a pretty quick close.
Right.
And we didn't have to deal with an appraisal. We didn't have to deal with a 45 day close period. So it was a relatively quick turnaround time for us.
Okay, so if I'm hearing this right, this is nuts. 35K under contract, full listing at 89K. After everything's said and done, what's net profit on this?
It's over 40.
Yeah, it was over 40.
$1,000 wholesale, guys. Woo!
Yeah.
Leave a comment and say, Sean, you guys are flipping geniuses.
We want to see it, guys. Matt and Sean flipping geniuses.
You guys are flipping geniuses.
40K. Now, Jerry, I didn't mean to stop you. What were you going to say about that?
Oh, I just wanted to answer on this question a little bit more, because the thing of it is, guys, is when you do a wholesale deal, you got to be thinking about the condition of that property when you get it. Because the idea here is I'm not going to touch it. I'm maybe trash it out or maybe do a cleaning, but you're not going to start rehabbing. That's a different animal. So what is the market value of that property in its current condition that a retail buyer will pay for it? So ARV, remember, is if you go in and completely renovate it, that's top of the market. But you might get I call it clean and livable. And I've heard you, Cody, talk about it too. A livable house means it's probably dated, but it's functional. It's going to pass a mortgage inspection. It's livable. It's move-in ready, but it's not totally updated. And those are the perfect wholesale deals. And you price those accordingly, right? So if ARV is 150, that clean number might be 130, right? So you got to think about, well, if I come back on market with this property, where do I need to be to hit that retail number given its current condition? Now, I saw a comment here, Cody, that said, can you do this with a gutted property? And the answer is you can do the same thing with a totally cash-only deal where it's not going to get financing, it's not going to sell retail. And the idea here is you're putting it out there for another cash buyer to come offer cash for it. And the only reason why that might be better than just doing a straight assignment to somebody on your list is you're trying to find a buyer that maybe you don't know. By going on market, you're getting massive exposure because now the whole market sees it. And maybe there's a cash buyer that's going to pay more than somebody else. But you can do the same thing with a totally cash only transaction where it's just not going to go retail because it's in too much disrepair.
Yeah, there's your question right there. Did I find that?
That's it. Yeah. So you can do it. Now it's a different model, right? Because you're not looking for a retail buyer, you're looking for another cash buyer, but it's the same idea. It's buy it, take it down, relist it, try to find a buyer that's going to pay a lot more for it.
And Sean and Matt, you guys are used to me saying this one a lot. Like, we don't want to be a cash buyer's employee. Mm-hmm. So the best way to become a cash buyer's employee is have very little cash buyers on your list, and then they get to determine how much they want to offer, and you have to accept it, right? Here's the beautiful thing about a wholesale, guys. He or she who gets their deal in front of as many eyes as possible will make the most money possible per deal. That's just period, the end. And by putting it on the MLS, you now just turned your wholesale. Let's say your cash buyers list, like our one in Utah is 9,000.
Wow.
So what we'll do is we'll still send it out to our cash buyers, but then we'll put it on the MLS, and we just opened up the funnel to get as many eyes as possible looking at this property. And even if it's like in this bad condition, this gutted to a stud, yeah, we're just looking for cash buyers. And by putting on the MLS in Utah, we have to own it first. There's some states that you just, when you put a home under contract, that gives you the right to put on the MLS. I wish that was the case here. It's not. I have to actually own it. So do check with like a real estate attorney. Do check with your bylaws and all the laws around real estate to see what you can and can't do. But for me, I actually have to own it, be able to put it on the MLS in Utah. And now what I do is I just open that funnel up with more cash buyers that are not on my list so I can get as many eyes as possible to look at it.
And Cody, I was talking with you about this offline before the live stream. My 2021 goal is to take down everything I possibly can. And the reason why is because given the shortage of inventory, if you can take down a deal and put it back up on the MLS, usually my experience has been right now is that you're going to fetch a really high price for that property because there's going to be a live-in flipper, or there's going to be a buy and hold guy that wants it, or there's going to be a retail fix-it-yourselfer, whatever. You're going to find money that's going to be paying way out of formula, a buyer way out of formula than your traditional investors that you might have on a list. It's just what's happening right now because of no inventory. So it's amazing the numbers you're going to get if you do this wholesale strategy.
I love it. Anything you guys want to add to that, gentlemen?
And our requirement, like for wholesale for us, like when we're looking at properties, whether we're going to wholesale it or in this case wholesale it, for us it's about generating the most amount of revenue as possible and as quickly as possible. And with the wholesale opportunity, it just our criteria is it doesn't require very much. And for us, it's maybe a couple of $1,000s at most, but the time from acquisition to getting it live on the market's less than 15 days. So we want to be able to really turn it and bring revenue in. But you definitely, for us, it was our biggest deal. It was our biggest acquisition the entire year, and so it's just looking for those opportunities to maximize revenue, really.
I mean, if you put it in perspective, you guys, most flippers right now will go in and completely renovate homes, and they're happy to make 20, 25 after doing a fix and flip. You guys just did a wholesale and made 40. And I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say you guys probably could have wholesaled that deal for 5 or 10, but because you wholesaleed it, you made 40. Do you guys see that?
Yeah.
You took a $5,000 or $10,000 regular run-of-the-mill wholesale and you turned it into a $40K wholesale. That's the beauty of this model.
Yeah. If there's more money in it, we'd rather be the ones making it. So
yeah,
I love it.
Right.
I love it. Well, here's this. What are the fees? I know we've talked about this, but we have people kind of logging in at all different times, and I just want to make sure we feed as many people on this. What's some of the fees to put into consideration when wholesaling?
If you're going to put it on an MLS, you got to think about real estate expense, so real estate agents involved.
Yep.
Luckily for us, we are licensed, so we're able to control one aspect of that transaction.
Yep.
And then you have title fees. So you have to pay for title company closing costs, title insurance, and then everything else is kind of negotiable. That one had an HOA, so we had to pay for like an HOA transfer fee, and then utilities. And those are really all the expenses that we spent on that property.
Yeah, so guys, you got to be thinking about some of these things here. So for example, typical commissions when you go to list, if you pay the traditional fees, you're going to pay 3% for a listing, 3% for a buyer's agent. That's 6%. That's a big chunk that could cut into your spread there. Now, I'm the same as you guys. I'm licensed. We'll list ourselves. We save a ton of money that way. So you're probably pretty much going to be guaranteed to pay a 3% to a buyer's agent who's going to bring that buyer. So you got to factor that fee in. But you can do some creative things on the list side. Like in a lot of markets, we'll just do a straight flat fee listing service. We pay $300-400. It gets it on the MLS. That's all we want. We'll deal with the buyers when they come in, right? Because it's not full service. So you're not getting anything other than just exposure. But you got to factor that in. You're going to factor in usually a couple $1,000s in closing fees usually. Maybe you've got a few $1,000s in financing, like you guys had $3,000 in financing. So, you know, you might have, let's say, $7,000, $8,000, $10,000 in fees. But if you're grossing, let's just say 30 on a wholesale and you net 20 after fees, or make a quick 5 on a regular wholesale, you're still way ahead, right? But you do have to think about the fees in the transaction to buy it, resell it, commissions, closing fees, and funding, financing fees are going to eat into that. So you can't go in too tight. Like, I would never wholesale a deal with a $10,000 margin. It's way too tight, because by the time fees are paid, you got nothing left, right? Yeah. That would make more sense to wholesale. But if you got a 40K, 30K spread, 50K spread, then you're going to come out way ahead usually.
100%. Guys, here is one of my favorite questions, because I think it's going to unlock some ideas here. So how do we find all these cash buyers or houses in a town of 30,000 people or a county of 100,000 people? Here's the beautiful thing, Philip, is because you're in a small town or because you're in a small county, just talking statistic wise, right? There's not a ton of people in there. If you're just relying upon the cash buyers that you're aware of, you may have a small list of cash buyers, but here's the beautiful thing. When you put it on the MLS, you now open the doors, the windows to now out-of-state investors that you're not even aware of. People that are maybe moving from New York, or people moving from California, or people that are just needing to park their money into real estate and they're just looking for a decent return. What they'll do is they'll just connect with a bunch of realtors, and the real estate agents, by putting on the MLS, will be able to call those out-of-state investors that you don't even know about and say, hey, here's a good deal. You should take a look at it, right? But now this is why, for this reason, Philip, I love the wholesale deal, because you may only have 20, 30, 50 cash buyers in a town that size, maybe 100 cash buyers. I want thousands of eyes on these properties. And the way I do that is by putting it on the MLS. So don't let the small town, that should be more reason why to look at the wholesale strategy. It now opens your eyes to cash buyers that you're not even aware of that are out-of-state investors. Anything you want to add to that?
No, it's always about maximum exposure, you guys. And that's why wholesaling makes sense, because you're getting way more exposure to your deal. And Cody, I mean, you just nailed it on the head. Every deal, the goal is maximum exposure. The more eyeballs on your deal, the higher, the more likely you're going to get more offers and higher prices. And it's just the nature of the game. And that's now amplified by low inventory right now. So that's why this works so well.
100%. So Lewis says this: are hard money lenders agreeing to do wholesale deals this way?
Well, yeah, I mean, there are lenders that specialize in this type of financing. And if you think about it, a hard money lender, they're looking at their acquisition into the deal. So they're looking at, well, does this deal make sense to lend on? You know, what you do with that deal isn't necessarily what they're concerned with. So if you turn around and just resell it, then what issue would they have? Now, some hard money lenders have prepayment penalties because they want their money working a little bit longer. So check that. If they have like let's just say they have like a 90-day prepayment penalty and you sell it in 60 days, they could be charging you a fee to be exiting the financing early. So that's something I'd watch for. And they might also want down payment. So if they're not really set up for wholesaling, they might want you to come in with 20% on that purchase. And so then you'd have to find those additional funds from yourself or somewhere else, or private money or whatever. But that's why I think there's lenders, hard money lenders in every market that will lend 100% of purchase and closing. You just got to get out there and find them, network and find them, and ask. Say, hey, I'm looking to take down these deals. All I'm going to be doing is reselling them without really doing much. Do you finance that type of transaction for 30, 60, 90 days? And see if you can find a lender that's on board.
Here's the thing, guys. Yes, 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 yes. Hard cash lenders will lend out. All they care about is the money. In fact, here's why I'm going to throw in 4 more yeses. Yes, 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 yes. Because They actually want the deal. They're actually crossing their fingers, hoping you don't pay them back because you brought them the deal. And that's what's hard to find, right? So it's making sure that you understand if a hard cash lender is going to lend on it, A, you have yourself a great deal. But B, don't let a thought in your mind think that they won't. You'll find out by just talking to any cash buyer or any hard cash lender. They're ready to lend and they're ready to go. So a question I have for you guys is, now that you've done your first wholesale deal, what has this done for your future in strategizing does this change your strategy, or is it like, no, there's times where we still look at wholesale being the best option, or we still look at fix and flip being the best option, and sometimes we do a wholesale. What does this one wholesale deal teach you to do for the future? I'm curious for my own perspective.
So really personally, I mean, like looking at 2021 for our goals and stuff, it's just really another tool in the belt. It's looking at every deal and seeing, what's the best exit strategy that's going to get us the most revenue quickly. Sure. For us, we know that these type of deals aren't, they're like one out of 50 or 1 out of 100 where it's this big of a return for us. So we just know that we got to get in front of more people to give ourselves an opportunity. So we're actually using a good chunk of that money to reinvest in marketing to get us, more opportunities to acquire properties, whether that's through wholesaling or wholesaling. We know that it's kind of a numbers game, but it's something that's not off the table. And when a deal fits our criteria, we're definitely we'll be prepared to pull the trigger.
I love it. Here's a good question, guys. I like this one that we're looking at. What are your thoughts on just blasting the deal out to an agent's list and letting them give you the highest and best without having to close on it yourself? I think that's a fantastic question. I think it goes back, and Jerry, I'd love your opinion on this as well. I think it goes back to as many eyes as possible. Now you're relying on a capped list, meaning maybe they only have 5 cash buyers on the list. So instead of just capping how many eyes are looking at this, I say activate the MLS and open all the eyes that aren't on their list, people that are looking for deals. You may find out that person in our neighborhood, perfect example, he ends up talking to, or finds, this guy comes from California. He ends up finding out through the MLS that it just got listed that day. He's in town, and he's only in town for 2 days to find a home. And now he's a dear neighbor of ours. His kids all over hanging out with our kids. But here's the whole point. He was in town for 2 days. This listing happened. And the moment he goes out, looks at the home, and he makes this offer that's like $40,000 higher than asking price because he has the cash. He doesn't care what it appraises for. He just has 2 days to figure out where they're going to live, to move their family into this home. And he felt good about the neighborhood. He felt good about the area. Had that not been on the MLS, they miss out on this opportunity of this buyer that paid 40 grand more than asking price. So that's just a real-time story that just took place over the last 3 months in my own neighborhood. So Jerry and gentlemen, why don't you guys chime in as well?
Yeah, I agree. The issue with that is, I mean, that's not like that's a bad idea or anything. But again, if you send a property to a real estate agent list, a cash buyer list, then your exposure is limited to just that list. Going on the MLS puts it public to everybody. So now you're getting eyeballs that are not on one of your lists that are seeing that deal. And more than likely, there's someone on a list you don't have or out there that you don't know that's going to come in and make an offer. So that's all. It's just the whole idea here. If you grasp this one concept, it's wholesaling is getting your deal out to the general public in the hopes of getting more eyeballs on your deal and getting a really good offer.
More importantly, a retail buyer, which is your highest paying buyer.
Yeah.
You've got what I call fix and flippers, your lowest paying, landlords, which is your better, higher paying, because they don't have to put like the fit and finish that a fix and flipper do. They have to put like the granite and all this stuff because they're finding a retail buyer as their exit strategy. A landlord's like, hey, I just got to make this rent ready. I don't need granite countertops. I don't need the high end flooring. I don't need to redo all my cabinets. Maybe I'll just reface them or repaint them, where the rehabber has to pay more. So he'll pay you less for your deal. Landlord is great. the best is retail. They pay even more than the landlord. And so by putting on the MLS, you're now opening up to your highest paying buyer, and that is your retail buyer. Gentlemen, anything you want to throw on that?
I mean, really for us, it was just, we knew that we had a home run. We knew there was a lot of, there's going to be a good return on wholesaling it. We just wanted to get to close as quickly as possible from, acquiring a property. So for us to even think about trying to get it out to a list and stuff and start securing a buyer, our focus was let's just get this acquisition completed, do what we need to do, and then get it ready on the market. So for us, it was speed on the front end too was important.
Love it. Here's a great question. What's your criteria? Gentlemen, why don't we start with you? What's your criteria for wholesale versus wholesale before we chime in?
The amount that we could probably assign it for versus the amount we could turn it right back out and flip it and get more money for.
Is there a certain number you're looking for? Like, hey, I could assign this for 10 grand or wholesale it for 15 grand. Does that sound like a win to you? Or is there a point where you're like, nah, I'm just going to take the wholesale? Or does it have to be double? I mean, is there a certain number you're looking for that says, yep, this is perfect, I'm doing a wholesale on this one?
We really, for wholesale, our goal is always try to make 10,000 per assignment. So I think for wholesale, it'd be, can we double our money?
Yeah.
And so that's really where it comes in. Because if the wholesale doesn't work out, then the worst thing that happens is we make 15,000 or we make 10,000. But we're always looking to double what we would make in an assignment.
Love it. Jerry?
That formula. Yeah. So the thing you got to think about, guys, is what you're saying by not doing an assignment and by doing a wholesale, I'm going to take on a little bit higher risk because now I'm buying it, I'm closing it, I'm taking ownership of it, and I'm waiting. Now I'm waiting 30, 60, 90 days, whereas an assignment's immediately. So what's better? Is 10,000 better right now at closing, or is 15,000 better in 90 days? I'd say 10 now is better than 15 in 90 days.
100% agree.
Right? But is 10 better now, or is 22 in 90 days better? Now you start to think about it, right?
Well, yeah. What about this? 10 grand or 40? It's like,
yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to take the quick 10.
Right. So the question you have to ask yourself is less money now or more money later? What's it worth to me? And am I willing to wait it out, take that little bit more risk, be in the deal a little bit longer, but make a bigger return? That's everyone's threshold is going to be different. But I kind of like your guys' model. If I can, just because I'm not desperate for an assignment. When you're desperate, you take the assignment, you get your 10 grand, and you're getting your start in life, and it's fine. But as you start to do deals and you start to really grow your income, it starts to make more sense to say, you know what, I'm okay to wait 90 days and make double or triple than I can right now today for the quick cash, right? So everyone's going to be at a different place with that, but that's the question you have to ask yourself.
I agree.
Love it.
And that's
Love
kind
it.
of how we look at it.
Look at this, guys. My head is spinning.
Good.
This is good stuff. We got thanks, guys. I think someone says, can I pay you Bitcoin for mentorship? I think BTC. Is that Bitcoin? I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe not.
I think it is.
But guys, this is good stuff. This is we've got some great questions that are coming in. But so you make 40K, you're out here doing good. What do you see as let me ask this question, and this will be for all of us. Do you see that if there's a shift in the economy, if something shifts, let's say we relive 08, 09, is wholesaling a good strategy during a down economy? I'd love to hear your guys' opinion on this.
I mean, it depends. I mean, you got to know where your trend. If prices are going downward, then it just kind of factors in on your formula on what you're willing to buy. So maybe you're not buying between 60 and 70% ARV. Maybe you're going lower. Maybe it's 40 to 50%.
Yeah.
You leave yourself the margin just in case that market shifts. But if the thing that I know is that being in real estate for 16 years at this point, people want to buy something that's nice. So if you bring a nice quality product to the marketplace and you hit the right, the current market whatever that market value is, to hit the right ARV, it'll sell, and it'll sell in a timely way. I think the more important thing is as long as financing's available. That was the issue with 08. I think financing got really, really tight for most people. So as long as financing's fluid, I don't think the market, inventory would be a good thing right now. I mean, I just, at least in Albuquerque, and I know that's like that in Phoenix and Utah, it's going to take a long time to kind of get even into a balanced market. So you just really got to have a good understanding of what your market's doing, and then just adjust your ARV accordingly, and plan and keep yourself the right amount of margin. So the answer is yes, I would wholesale if we got the right price.
Sure, getting at the right price.
Anything always sells at the right price, no matter what the market's doing.
Love it. Jerry?
Yeah, so I think, guys, the goal of every real estate investor, every wholesaler should be, how do I progress my business? How do I continue to grow my income, grow my business model, grow my lifestyle, grow, my spirituality, my physical health? The goal is growth in everything we do. And so if you come into this business and you're a one-trick pony, like I said, and all you do is assignments, then you limit your ability to really grow in this business. And I think we start out as wholesalers. That's usually the place we start. It's the lowest barrier to entry. Assignments is the lowest risk way to do a wholesale deal. But you guys have got to come into the business, I think, everyone listening, and be thinking, where do I see myself in, 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years? Where am I taking my business? What am I willing to do to grow and step out of my comfort zone and think about different elements of this business that I'm not doing right now, so that I can expand myself? And that could be more transactions. It could be getting into taking down deals and doing wholesale. If you want to take it a step further, why not do carpet and paint? Now you get another 20 grand out of the deal, maybe. Why not go in there and do a full rehab and do cabinets and tile and everything else? Now, I'm not saying that's what you should do or necessarily should do, but the way you look at real estate is, the more I am involved in the deal, right? The more I change the property, the more value I add, the more profit I can make. So what does that look like? So in my business, am I going to look at more marketing to do more deals? So now I go from, 1 or 2 or 3 deals a month to 10 deals a month, or, you're doing what Cody does in Utah, where they're doing 100+ transactions in one market, open another market. Cody's opened a market in Texas now, and they're growing that market. What does it look like for you? The point is, though, is focus on growing and developing yourself, and then there's no ceiling on your income. And I think that's hopefully the bigger thing everybody takes away from this, is creative ways to continue to expand and grow your business model.
Great answer. Yeah.
Guys, here's something to think of. There's a good book that if whenever I did a podcast interview or whenever I've talked to people, every one of us, or at least we either know someone's read it, or if we haven't read it, but many of us have already read the book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? It's like the
Classic
book of all books. It's the classic. What many people don't talk about is kind of the sequel to that, and that is cash flow quadrant. And so kind of to allude and go a little bit further on what Jerry just said, because it just makes so much sense, and you find it within the cash flow quadrant, is that taught me the difference of owning a job or owning a business. And I think it's crucial to understand when he says growing yourself, that sometimes what got you here isn't going to be the same thing that gets you there. And sometimes I see people get so burnt out and stressed out because they're wearing all the hats, for say, and they're doing everything, that they really, all they own is a job. And so I always tell people, if you hate W-2 employment, wait till you get inside of self-employment for 5 years. Like, get ready. It's the most painful place to be, is actually self-employment. I think W-2 employment is actually kinder to you than self-employment. Self-employment W-2, correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen, that's like a 40-hour week. It's like clock in, clock out. Self-employment, 70-hour week. Now you've lost time with your spouse. Now you've lost time with your kids. Now you can't even go on vacation because you're wearing all the hats, because yes, you're making more money, but at the end of the day, you basically own a job. And the only way we were able to do over 100 deals in Utah and then do 50 deals in Texas, and now we're growing into other markets, and we have a franchise model that we have 17 franchises across the nation, is because we grow the team and not wear all the hats. Because I want this to be something that goes on forever. I don't want to get burnt out. I don't want to get tired doing 70-hour weeks. I don't. My wholesale business, and my business partner here, he'd probably punch me, I may 3 or 4 hours a week, maybe. And I couldn't have that luxury if I didn't have an amazing team in place to help me do that. So Just know that there is a difference between owning a job and owning a business. Just because you're self-employed doesn't mean you own a business. Owning a business is whether you're gone or home or there or where, money's still coming in with or without you. It's serving you versus you always having to serve it.
Yeah, I heard a funny joke that was.
I'll listen this time, Jerry. I'll listen this time.
Okay, don't miss my joke, Cody.
I'm not missing it.
Why work 8 hours for yourself? Or sorry, I already screwed it up.
I was listening.
Why work 8 hours for someone else when you can work 12 hours for yourself? Right?
Yeah.
Right.
That's entrepreneurship. That's the definition of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, but it's that self-employment idea where you're trading time for dollars. It's just you're just employed by yourself instead of somebody else. It's more risky, I think. So yeah, guys, the goal here is to create a business where you've got systems and processes and the right people in place so that you continually make more money while you're not working more. And I totally agree with that. And so wholesaling is a way to just really expand your profit per deal in a huge way. And I think it's a prime strategy for 2021 and on. So I think that's where we're going to be focusing a lot of our energy too.
Let's go a couple questions, gentlemen. Sean, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of touch base on self-employment, I mean, it really kind of comes down to the one that you talked about is people. I mean, so if you build a business, you know, what you have to learn is it's not going to be all dependent on you. You have to go find really talented people to get into business with and teach your tools and systems and teach them, you know, basically how to bring value to the service that you're trying to bring. So like in wholesaling, you're just trying to help people out with a problem, right? It's pain and pleasure, and you help them come up with a solution for their problem. The more people you can teach that, then the bigger your business can be. So that's really what it comes down to when it comes to being an entrepreneur. It's how can you bring value to the people that want to work with you and help build their business, and then by default, your business will be successful.
I love it. I love it. I tell people that don't have money, and there's a good question in here, and man, they're still chiming in that sometimes it's hard to keep up with them. But it asked, if I don't have much money, what would you suggest? Here's what literally is probably the easiest way to get in the game, and that is I would tell the person, get a big, massive, incredible cash buyers list that you can build up to 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people. That doesn't cost you money. You can scrape Facebook. You can do that by going to RIA meetings. There's so many ways and free ways to build your cash buyers list so that wholesalers, when they have a deal they can't move, you may find out it's a beginner wholesaler that found a great deal, but only has 3 people to send it out to, and none of his cash buyers want it. Does that mean it's a bad deal? No, it just means those 3 cash buyers didn't want it. But what if you could now say, hey, I'll split it with you 50-50, and I'll just send it out to my cash buyers, and you bring the buyer to the table, right? If you want to get into this as low as possible, and I had no money, and I was like, oh, there's so much fear holding me back. Let's say you do have money, but for some people, it's a reality that there's a real fear there that, man, I just don't know if I trust this. I don't know if I want to get in this. I don't know if I trust myself. I don't know if I can do this. I would tell you the easiest way is build that cash buyers list and provide a value, just like Sean shared, provide a value to someone else where if they can't move a deal, or if they want to just simply have you disposition the deal, sell the deal, or bring the cash buyer to the table, that you get paid for it, but you had no marketing dollars. All you had was this robust, incredible cash buyers list that adds value to the wholesaler that doesn't have cash buyers. So that's probably one of the easiest ways if you don't have money. Do you gentlemen want to add anything to that before we take maybe one more?
I mean, I think that's a great idea. That was the first thing that we did. I mean, we already had kind of like an investor group starting in, but we've always are continuing to add to it. And even if we don't have deals, it's just seeing, you know, it's all about relationships. So you never know when you need to reach out to that person when you have the right deal. Like you said, you never know when you're going to get a bunch of no's, and then it's this person you've never done anything with before that you're able to finally maybe to put a deal together.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Jerry, anything before I go to the last?
Well, yeah. So I love that idea too, which is, you know, go find the cash buyers and then JV with the wholesalers. You're basically matching up the 2 parties, right? And that's a great way to quickly get into some deals where you didn't actually have to go find the deal. You just found the buyers first. So I love that strategy. I think there are so many different ways to where you can start to get into this business that you're creating limitations on yourself by saying, I don't have money or this or that. And honestly though, I mean, when you just get out there and you put yourself out there, if you're willing to pick up the phone, if you're willing to talk to cash buyers, if you're willing to talk to wholesalers, likewise, you could go to wholesalers and you could say, hey, what deals are you having trouble with moving? Find out what deals they have in their inventory, then go actively source and find buyers for those deals. That's kind of a similar strategy to what Cody's talking about. One thing that I tell a lot of my clients that I work with is, find a couple of cash buyers and figure out what they're looking for, and then tell them, hey, if I go make some lowball offers on market and I get a contract, are you fine if I bring it to you as long as it's at your number? And then you start working with some agents. You can start getting some, making some lowball offers. You're going to get a contract, bring that to your buyer. So it's just really thinking outside the box again about, how can I find between the two sides of deals and buyers, how can I get inside that world somehow and start to be a part of it and get compensated for it? And when you tell yourself that that's open and available and readily in your market, next thing you know, you're starting to put some deals together. You're networking with the right people. You're going to get a referral to this person, or you're going to get a lead, and then you're in the game. And that's really just starting, is just taking action, and you'll be amazed at what comes your way.
Love it. So the question is, what if you don't have access to the MLS? And I think this is more of just if I understand this, please help me, gentlemen, if I'm understanding this right. If you don't have access to the MLS, what would be the second best alternative? If we're talking like United States, the way you have access to the MLS and that everyone has access to MLS is you're listing these wholesale deals with an agent. Yeah. Now, these gentlemen, Matt and Sean, they happen to be realtors, so they can take care of the listing side, and then they're just paying like a closing agent or a buyer's agent fee of maybe 3%. For us, I'm not a realtor, so what I do is all of the deals that I put on the MLS, I have an agent that's willing to list all of our properties at 1% because we bring him anywhere from 30 to 40 homes that he gets to list every single year. And so we pay 4% total, 3 to the buying agent, 1 to the listing agent. But if it's Glorione, what it is you should have access to the MLS by just listening with the agent. I don't have like, if it's not for you to get on the MLS, it's for you to just simply have it listed by an agent that can put it on the MLS so that you get as many eyes as possible looking at your deal. I hope I read that right. Do you gentlemen see that question different than I saw it?
No, I was reading it the same way. And I think the best thing is to create a relationship and just call some realtors, talk to some realtors and see, what they're willing to do. And if they're willing to help you out, get some numbers on certain homes that you're looking at. And you never know unless you talk to a few.
Yeah. And we have those relationships with investors now. They use us, for their resource for like, what are comparable sales for this? They'll bring us opportunities as well. So there are people that choose not to be licensed for a reason. And so we're there as a resource on that side. I would just get in a relationship, and the more realtors the better. If you're choosing not to be an agent, I think it's wise to have a few people that you form a really strong relationship with.
Yeah. I have to take one more, guys, because I see this and it's a good one. I think this is a really, really good one. I see this being seen in so many different ways. It could be a negative question, a positive question. And guys, I love this question. So Evan, I hope this brings you joy, man, because I'm gonna bring it to you. I love this question. What an awesome question. If wholesaling was so profitable, why would you give out information on giving you more competition? Let me tell you guys my reality behind this. And gentlemen, you may have a similar story. Over 5 years ago, guys, I came home to my wife crying at the table. Mm-hmm. It was the worst scene ever that I ever had to go through. I knew it wasn't anything bad. I knew she wasn't hurting because she broke an arm, or I knew it wasn't being unfaithful in marriage. But I felt this pain when I walked in I surprised her early. I came home from my W-2 job working hours and hours. And there she is crying at the table, guys. And I just remember her looking up at me, and she had raccoon eyes from the mascara. It was going all down her face. And I just remember asking her, Wendy, what's going on? And this is when I was insurance, guys. And she looks up to me and she says, I don't know how we're going to put food on the table. Now, guys, I had 3 kids at the time, and I get a little emotional because how much this means to me. What wholesaling did for me, guys, is set me free from that pain of seeing my wife cry, wondering how money was going to put on there. And as a dad, being the provider, being the one that's supposed to maintain that and do that and failing at that was enough for me to make me change and get better myself and start looking at different options. And if it wasn't for wholesaling, I don't know where I'd be right now, guys, but I will tell you this. Wholesaling changed my life. 39 days into trying it, I did my first deal and it paid me 24 grand.
Nice.
And I'd made $19,000 my whole first year in insurance, guys. It was tough. It was brutal. So Evan, when you asked this question, I know there's more Cody Hoffines out there, and I'm not going to hold in what I know. I'm going to let everyone know about it. And I do not believe in competition. I wholeheartedly believe in an abundant mindset, that there's more deals for all of us, and there's more deals out there than any one of us can handle. And on a spiritual level, I believe God loves my family, and I believe God loves your family, and he wants to provide for each one of his children. And I don't think I can take those deals from you. Those deals, there's going to be deals that are meant for you, and there's deals that are meant for me. And that's the reason why we share this knowledge, is because I know there's more Cody Hoffines out there that maybe have walked in on their spouse crying, wondering how they're going to pay their mortgage or how they're going to put food on the table. And I just don't want to see that happen. I want to let them know what I know, because it's changed my life for the better.
That's great.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. So Cody, you have a heart of gold. You've got the biggest heart probably of anybody I know in the industry that educates about this. And guys, I hope you felt that sincerity if you have that concern. And I'm gonna tell it to you from a completely different perspective, because if you're like, yeah, I don't really believe in that law of abundance crap, which is fine if you don't. I think the law of reciprocity is real. I think if you think that there's competition, that's a scarcity mindset. It's going to limit your ability, because what you're really saying is you're saying there's only a finite amount of deals in the market. There's only so much to go around. And so if I don't hoard it all, then I'm going to lose somehow. And I think that attitude is going to keep you from networking. It's going to keep you from finding the right contacts, the right people on your team. Everything in your life is going to be limited if you think there's a finite amount of money or a finite amount of deals. It isn't. There's so much there for all of us to participate in. But I'll say this, from when I started teaching and sharing and educating and coaching, my business, my deal business, I'm not talking about my coaching business, my deal business has exploded. And the reason why is because so much comes back to me. I partner with my students, and not just students, people bring me deals. And so my deal business has just has just expanded and exploded beyond measure, from being willing to really give and put myself out there. And I'm friends, some of my best friends are competition. You know, I go after deals that probably Cody goes after occasionally, and he's still one of my closest friends. So competition isn't something that is ever a limitation in my life, in my business. And so I'll tell you everything I possibly know to help you be successful, because I know it's full circle. All of it's full circle, and because I've seen it happen in my own life. So I hope that kind of adds on to what you're sharing there, Cody.
Love it, Jerry. Gentlemen, final thoughts, and then we will I think this has been one incredible, by the way, time with you, gentlemen. So Matt and Sean, first, before you start sharing your answer, thank you so much for being with us today. I know that this brought up an amazing topic that people need to be talking about for 2021, because it's such a huge strategy. So, gentlemen, any thoughts on that last question, on what you would add to that?
I mean, we live a life of abundance. The more that we put out, the more we get back. So we feel very similar to how you guys feel. This has changed our life, and we're willing to share it with anybody, because we know it will come back to us.
Yeah, I mean, also too, I think it's, talking about competition, you want your competition to be better, right? Because the better that your competition is, the better, it makes you work harder and to refine your craft. But serving the public, bringing, wholesaling opportunity, as an answer for their problem. You want them to treat them with professionalism. You want it to be, you don't want there to be a bad rap of cash buyers. Be leery. All they're out to do is to kind of pull the wool over your head and take you out of your house. You want your competition to be just as professional as you're going to be. And so I think giving your information out on how you're operating and how you're trying to get better in your business, it just makes everybody better.
Right.
Look at this powerful quote. There's this gentleman out there that has a quote. His name's Jerry Norton. And look at this quote. I love it. It's not about the money. It's about having the time and freedom to have, be, do, and give everything you want in life.
Right.
Woo!
That's deep right there.
I love it. I love it. This Jerry dude. I got to meet this guy. This guy sounds like he has some inspiration to add. I love it. I love it. Look at this. Someone's cutting onions for this guy. He's tearing up over here. I love it. I love it. I love it. Guys, thank you so much for being here. For those that have been in attendance watching, I hope we served you at a high level. I hope you leave here inspired. We hope that you leave here with an abundant mindset, that you leave here with a new strategy, but more importantly, enough information to take your next action. That's the crucial thing. You'll get the warm and fuzzies while you're on here, but it's not about the warm and fuzzies. It's about feeling those warm and fuzzies and then acting upon those warm and fuzzies. That's what's going to bring you momentum, and momentum is what brings you success. Take the action that you know you must take today. Jerry, final thoughts, final words.
Yeah, God wants you to be on a higher level. Whatever level you're on, God wants you to be on a higher level. There's lives that you can change. There's people that you can bless, your own life, your family's life, others' lives. And wholesaling to me is a means to an end. I mean, I love real estate. I have to set restrictions on my phone, or I'll be on Zillow at like midnight, right? Because I just absolutely love this game we're in and this business. But it isn't really about the money. And if I kind of expand on that quote that I try to say as often as I can, we talk a lot about the money, right? But it's all a means to an end if you allow it to be. So the money can provide so much good in the world if you're willing to use it for that goodness. And I think, I feel like God has big things in store for me to bless lives on a big level. And so that gets me up in the morning. It gets me excited every day to go out there and have an impact in a positive way. And I know that about you too. You listening right now, there are bigger things for you to do in your life than what you're doing right now for all of us. So what are you doing every day to live into that and to find that purpose and to really be all that God has intended for you to be, and go after that? So do it, guys. We got this. You got this.
Love it. Gentlemen, any final words?
Just to piggyback on Jerry, I mean, really, your business is just a conduit for your personal development and for your personal life. And so, how we choose to spend our time daily is important. And I'm just really blessed to have found real estate, and I know that I got a great partner to share that with, and and then surround yourself with people that are doing the things that you want to do. You're the sum of the 5 people that you hang out with the most. And so, I'm just thank you guys for having us on here.
Thank you.
It was like a year ago we were listening to you guys like nonstop, and now we haven't stopped listening to you guys. But now we're being interviewed. So if you are listening out there, you can be on this podcast in a year from now.
What a difference a year makes, really is.
Serious. Well, guys, thank you so much for being here. You guys rock. We'll be doing this again next week. Guys, this platform will end, but we want you to still comment in. So if you have questions, maybe you're watching this not live, this live chat will end. And so it will be posted on the YouTube videos or the Facebook, wherever you're watching right now. Carry over your comments now over to those videos. Jerry, I hope I'm not making this sound like Spanish or German or something as I'm sharing this. Did that direction just make sense, what I just said?
Yeah, so the way it works, guys, is we're on the live right now, so there's the chat box, but then once the live ends, the chat box kind of turns off. But the comment section below the video on YouTube anyway, that can continue on. So we can actually reply to the comments below the video once the live stream is over. So if you're watching this, it's not live, or you didn't get a question answered or whatever, now go over to the comment section once we end and put your question in there or leave your comment in there. And you can do that on my channel, Cody's channel, and then we'll do our best to try to answer any questions we didn't get to today. But yeah, and feedback too. Give us your feedback, topics you want to cover. Like Cody said, we're going to try to do this, routinely every week. So we want to make this a big part of your weekly schedule and life.
Love it. Guys, God bless you in your journey.
God bless.
Take care, and we'll see you next week as we do this live. God bless you guys. See ya.
Yeah.